Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the city of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. You will need to use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait until I've asked you to speak. Please turn off your microphone when you finish speaking. It's been 3 weeks, so I just need to do these reminders again. Please be respectful and patient while listening to each speaker and do not interrupt or interject during the debate. Each person has 3 minutes with a warning bell at 2. Before I go to the agenda, I remind you that you are only permitted to speak once unless you are the mover, and if you have a question to a deputy or to staff, make sure you limit your preamble and get to your point quickly. Now to the agenda. We've been through all of the announcements at this stage. Apologies, we have 2 apologies, one from Councillor Davey and one from Councillor Hubel. We have no leave of absence, although later on this evening we do have a request for a leave of absence. Declaration of interest reminder. Is there anyone who wishes to declare a conflict of interest?
Yes, in respect to 13.1, I have a direct personal interest, a non-pecuniary interest, and I will leave the chamber when this is discussed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Your Worship, sorry. Both Councillor Henschke and I are on the EHA board, although it's not a material conflict of interest as per the Act, because you can be in a regional. I just sort of raise it anyway, just in case.
Yes, that's fine. I appreciate that, but there's no funding, no financial impediment to you remaining in the chamber for the debate. Thank you. Councillor Henschke, you can turn your mic off now unless you want to speak. Applies to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, confirmation of minutes. I seek a mover to confirm the minutes, please. That's Councillor Zing. You're moving. Councillor Cornish seconding. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Public presentations. We have no questions for question time, no presentations. Now, I did have 5 applications for deputations for tonight. 3 of those deputations I have deferred until the next meeting because I want to discuss, or want staff to discuss, the relationship of the request for the deputation, because it relates to actually sponsorship, and we do have a process that people can apply for sponsorship to go through, and I need to have an opportunity for the administration to discuss those issues, and they are prepared to come next time if there is a need. So those ones I have at this point in time deferred. I did have 2 others. One of them, I did try to explain that a decision that's been made by CAP cannot be turned around and changed by us as a council. We also do not have the power to get the CAP to re-evaluate or revisit a decision that has already been made. So I tried to make that clear to the deputy in my response as to why I would not accept that deputation. Sorry? It's been to CAP. No, it wasn't to CAP. Sorry, didn't go to CAP, it went to the... You can give the explanation, if you wouldn't mind, Mr.
Through the Chair, the application in question was assessed by the assessment manager as it didn't need to go to CAP, but the point is still the same.
Still the same. I apologise for getting that slightly wrong. Well, the point is that we can't make any decision. So it may be okay to listen to some people talk, but we cannot impact on the decision making at all. Anyway, that motion has now been withdrawn from tonight's meeting. Now, the third one came in at 7:28 this morning. The deadline for deputation applications is 7 o'clock last night, and I refused it on those grounds because once I allow one to come in late, then I have to allow every one of them to come in as late, and I can't draw another line in the sand and say, okay, if it gets in here before midday, when our policy clearly states 7 o'clock the day before. So I refused it on those grounds and those grounds alone. However, I believe Mr. Zing has invited that gentleman to come to the meeting tonight to speak. So it is your call.
Is it with leave the meeting that we hear Jackie to speak tonight for 2 minutes? Is that the best process, or?
It is up to the council to determine. I have already said no, but that you can overrule my decision. There needs to be a formal motion. Seconded and voted on. It relates to the third motion of the item, hang on a minute. It relates to item 13.3, Christmas lights. That's a motion on notice. Yes, and
Your Worship, I'm happy to move a motion to allow Jackie Wang to address the council and the deputation for tonight, if that's all right.
And
I'll seek a seconder.
sorry, Kerry, are you seconding it?
Yes.
All right. So I need to have an indication. Those who support that to be heard, please raise your hands. Those against? All right, wait a minute, I've got 4, and I think 5 to 4, I think it was. So that motion is lost. So the will not the deputy.
It has to be 5 on 5.
Sorry, well then I'll do it again. All right. Then those in favour of the motion of hearing the deputation. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you, Councillor Henschke, before. All right, that's 5, and those against is also 5, which gives me the casting vote. And I'm going to stick to what I had already decided, and that is I'd made a call. I made what I believed was a fair call, and based on the policy that we have, and I will always be consistent with that policy whilst I'm in this position. And the letter, I believe a letter has been sent by Mr. Sorry, I've forgotten your surname. But everyone received a copy of, Mr. Wang, everyone around the table received a copy of the letter, and there will be debate on that item later on this evening. Right, so now we move to the reports, and I'm going to go through them and to see.
I'm sorry, Worship, could I potentially request that we move item 13.3 up, since the only person in the chamber is here to see that or listen to that?
We have that alternative, or the alternative is he could go home and watch it on screen later on. But if you wish to move that, then you will need to move it. And I need a seconder.
I seek to move 13.3 now.
And I need a seconder. Councillor Zing, all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we going back to where we were before? And those against? Right, then it's 5. No, you need to put your hand up, thank you. That's 5 all, and I'm going to leave it as it is on the agenda, and you're very welcome to watch it on the screen later on tonight. You won't be allowed to speak at that point in time anyway, so you're not losing any opportunity by it being deferred until later on. It might not be, it all depends on how we effectively get through all of the other items on the agenda first, okay? So, now we move through the reports, and I'm going to go to Era Water first, 11.1. Who wishes to withdraw that one for debate? If not, I'm happy to take a mover. Councillor Cornish, you're moving. Seconded by, I'm looking for Councillor Hallett. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The community funding. Councillor Zing, you wish to move that one? All right. Eastern Health Authority Charter? No, he's withdrawing it. He's withdrawing for debate. Okay. Eastern Health Authority Charter? Councillor Hallett, you wish to withdraw it? Well, it does need to be withdrawn unless it's... no, it doesn't. I understood there were some changes. Councillor...
I'm happy to withdraw
it for... Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. The Glenunga Oval reconstruction, and I believe there's a replacement motion that's coming forward for that one. So it probably does need to be withdrawn by someone. No, it doesn't need to be withdrawn, okay? And everyone's received a copy of the alternate motion that Barry sent out to everybody today. So I'm looking for somebody to either withdraw or move the motion. Councillor Jones.
I'm happy to move the motion.
Move the motion. Right, seconded by Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Jennings, I just need to get an indication from you. You are for or against? For it going ahead. Okay, so that went through, so we don't have to, there's nobody against. Now we move on to, so that one's been completed. Now we've got the parking policy at 11.5. I'm looking on my screen. Is there anyone who wishes to withdraw it for debate? If not, I need a mover. Councillor Cornish, you're moving it. Yep. Councillor Turnbull, you're seconding. All those in favour? And I thank you very much. And against? Carried. I thank you for all of those who gave feedback to the policy. Now we move to 11.6, correspondence from the City of Unley. I'm seeking someone to withdraw it or move it. Councillor Hallett, withdraw it. Okay, thank you. Councillor Hallett. Mayor's activity report. Councillor Turnbull, you're moving it?
And I'm withdrawing it.
You withdraw it? Okay. Turnbull, okay. And so we'll go back now to Era Water, to 11.2, the community funding. And that was Councillor Zing.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Karishma's got the amendment on the screen shortly. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to support the amendment as I believe it is a cause and group we should support. It is very rare that we approach with something like this. Supporting this group of young robotics team will allow them to foster innovation and creativity. In an increasingly technology-driven world, we need to nurture the next generation of problem solvers and critical thinkers. This group of independent thinkers will promote the next gen in Burnside to design, build, and engage the local youth. We often need to drive young people away from phones, and this is one way. Promoting them to work together, bring skills and perspectives to achieve a common goal. Noting this is one of the top 3 teams in Australia, by supporting them through the surplus and the funding, we're demonstrating we support effective communication, leadership, and the ability to work under pressure. These life skills will not only benefit now, but also into the future. By providing this minor support, we ensure that students of all ages, regardless of their socio-economic background, have an equal chance to participate and engage. The other leading and serious competing team are funded by City of Unley, the Roboroos. This will bridge the opportunity gap and allow young people to get out and explore. By investing in our youth, we invest in the future of our community. Thank you, everyone.
I seek a seconder for the motion as it stands. If I don't receive a seconder, then the motion goes back to the original motion. Councillor Jennings, are you supporting this? All right, so therefore it becomes part of the debate. Are you going to speak now or withhold? All right. I'm seeing if anyone wishes to speak on this matter. Perhaps a couple of the people who, besides me, who were on the committee, might like to take this on board rather than me. Sorry, Councillor Cornish, you're first.
I do have a question as to if the administration can expand upon the rationale as to why applicant number 22 wasn't recommended funding from the committee. Obviously we've got the notes there, but if there's anything more to add to it.
Do you want Belinda to do it, or I can do it?
Oh, that's okay. Through Madam Mayor, my understanding is that there was a number of participants who were going to receive the funding that weren't from the City of Burnside. Is that the correct statement, Madam Mayor?
That's one of the actual reasons.
Yeah. I don't know if Ms Reynolds wants to expand on that. Oh, sorry, Ms Heinrich, sorry.
Patel.
Through the Chair, the Community Grants Panel assessed that application and did not agree, didn't recommend it to be funded because of the lack of wider community benefit. It was focused on a activity based through a school project, but you'll see in the notes provided in attachment A that those youth who are interested in participating in this program can apply through Council's quick response grants. Those quick response grants are set up especially for particularly targeted at youth who are participating in interstate sport competition, interstate leadership competition, and so that grant program is probably more fitting for this type of grant application rather than a community grant. That was the rationale of the community grants panel, but those members on that panel are welcome to reiterate if I haven't addressed a component of that.
I can just say that it was a unanimous decision by all three members of the committee. And Councillor Wilkins is on my list, so when you've got your turn, you may wish to add something to that. Councillor Hallett, do you wish to speak?
I've got a question. Thank you, Chair. In regard to the quick response grants and with residents and young people that are applying for sponsorship, how do we... I note that all of them are actually attending private schools. How do we assess whether or not they're disadvantaged? Because I can't see why we would be funding privileged children going to private schools to, you know, I would rather see it really going to families that are experiencing hardship and attending state schools.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor. I'll refer that to Mr Heinrich.
The Quick Response Grants program is open to any individuals that are residents of the City of Burnside. Economic status is not taken into consideration for those specific grants.
Yeah. Can I speak?
If you wish to speak, yes. I'm just reminding you that if you're asking another question, otherwise if you start speaking, then that is going to count as speaking.
All right, I'll speak. And I'll shut up.
I just didn't want you to get caught out like you have been caught out before.
Well, just to reiterate, I think we should be looking at changing the criteria so that students or people who are applying for a quick response grant do have to show that they are in some sort of form of financial need, because a lot of the clubs that are, and this sort of gets back to something that's just, there's been emails going back and forwards about Kensington Gardens Reserve in regard to the neighbourhood budget, is that we're getting all these grants for things, for objects, for equipment, and I would rather see an emphasis on funding social development and community development activities rather than balls or more tennis equipment, and I think that's what was coming up out of all of these, you know, the clubs. I think the clubs get really supported by us in a big way when they only have to pay a $1 peppercorn rental a year, and I don't see why then they should be coming to us asking for support with equipment. They should be using their own fundraising efforts for that. And I would really like to see us concentrating in the categories. I notice under youth, the category for youth, there's no mention in there about sport at all, but everything we've got seems to be about sport. And I'd rather see the small equipment purchase actually not encouraged and that money divided up between positive ageing, the environment and the youth. And that's what all I've got to say.
Right, Councillor Henschke.
Oh, right. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Councillor Cornish for the question, because that expanded for the Chamber, and Councillor Hallett for her remarks. And yes, the focus on a wider community benefit is great. And I do know there are other robotics clubs in the City of Burnside, like Robo-Roos is one that approached the administration, I believe, in the last term of council. So process-wise, we've got a robust process. I'm just speaking now. Just wanted to reflect on that, and a process that focuses on raising awareness in the community about the things that Councillor Hallett has pointed out, would be great. Perhaps that needs to be sharpened. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins, could you turn your mic off, please? Thank you. Can you hear me? Because I'm still on the radio. Oh, someone's got their mic on. Sorry, Councillor Turner, will be next.
Thank you. As a member of the group that did actually thoroughly read all of the applications, we decided that we would not give the full 5,000. There was an opportunity, as Belinda said, for those individuals who are participating in this competition to actually apply for a quick response grants. If they were in need financially, we would support them through a quick response grants. But it did not have a wider application, as Belinda also mentioned, part of the community development benefits scheme or assistance that we often give. This was, I didn't see any evidence of any fundraising that any of these students had done. Heavens forbid, we all fundraise for things in our own school communities, whether it is a private school or a public school. We fundraise to support students going to places. Even when I, from a public high school in Mount Gambier, we fundraise for school inter-school visits. So 0 was the sum they received, and we directed them through the staff to the quick response grants if anybody was financially deficit and needed some extra assistance. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish, are you okay if you let Councillor Turnbull go first and then you be next, because somehow with the buttons didn't work and she was next on my list.
Thank you, Mayor. And just following up from Councillor Wilkins, I was also a member of that committee, and I'd like to make it very clear that it didn't matter if it was a private school or a public school. That was not part of the equation. The fundraising was part of the thing we talked about, and also the fact that it was not going to benefit the wider community. So it was an equity issue in a way, but not in the way that it's being portrayed as private schools versus public schools. Not at all. So, and I think that Ms Portelli has summarised it really brilliantly. So thank you, and thank you for all your work you did too, Belinda.
Now Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Just a follow-up question, if I can, of the administration. I've heard a lot of talk about the quick response grants for these potential ones. Will this applicant be notified that, similar to other applicants that are being asked to move to other areas of funding or other support? Will they be notified of that by the administration?
Through Madam Mayor, the answer is yes, but I believe it may have already occurred.
Through the Chair, yes, after Council's decision tonight and pending those that receive funding through the annual business plan and budget, beginning of 1st of July, all applicants, successful or unsuccessful, will be notified, and those that require information follow-up, such as other grant alternatives, will be notified and given opportunity to apply through those processes.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, look, I just want to change a little bit of what people have been talking. I just want to talk about how successful this funding application process has been. I was on the panel in the previous council, and we were crying out for more applications. I don't know if Councillor Cornish can remember that. And we had 31 this year and 29 the previous year. So I want to congratulate Belinda and before her Farley, have really made an effort to promote this program. So whether this motion is passed or not, I just wanted to recognise the fact that this is very well received by the overall community.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, apart from Councillor Jennings, I think, who seconded it? You don't wish to speak? I just want to point out that it's quite a rigorous process. I've actually been on this committee now for 12, 13 years and have seen and Councillor Wilkins had been on it before, and also Councillor Turnbull had been on this. No, you hadn't been on it before. Councillor Dawes has been. And it is really a rigorous process in terms of examining all of their documentation, a folder about this thick. We read every single application And when we are not sure, as we were not with a few cases, we actually went through our administration to seek further information, to expand on what had been already presented when we were potentially in doubt of whether or not we should fund things. We were quite rigorous in terms of removing some of the requests for funding that were very high, and we went through those and said, no, we are happy to do this and that, but not the whole amount of money. I think we were very particularly concerned and mindful of the range of different kinds of programs and the range of different ages and age groups that we supported. Some of those ones that we've been supporting for many years, like the Zonta Club, making cushions for people with breast cancer. Some things like basketball club, we actually only have one basketball club and they don't have a venue, and we support them with equipment because they've got no other way of getting equipment apart from what their parents can purchase. And I have to defend, we made the decision, as Councillor Turnbull said, not based on any school attendance at all. We supported students from Glenunga International High School because it was on a needs basis and they had to prove they lived in Burnside. We also approved some things for a couple of the private, for one of the private schools and another government primary school, where where we could help in some way. And I think you also have to be mindful that even amongst schools that have a high fee, there are many students who attend those schools who are there on scholarships, and without scholarship funding, they would not actually be able to attend those schools. So we are mindful of all of those things as we go through this process, and it's a very long process, and I am very thankful to the two other members of the committee. We had our disagreements at times, we clarified, we asked questions, we debated, we went back and sought additional information, and then we said, okay, there are some here that are like this one, where if that student, at that time we understood there was only one of the team who lived in Burnside, was able to come back, and if they were successful in their pioneering or like getting through the rounds, then they could come back and we could look at a quick response sponsorship grant to help that student, or if there are more than one student, with that support to go travel interstate or whatever. So we were very particularly mindful of the decision making. And that's all I will have to say. And now it is to Councillor Zine.
Happy to just vote, Mayor. That's just...
Right, those in favour of the motion as it now stands? Those in favour? Against? The motion is lost. Now, someone like to move the original motion? Yes. Press your button then, Councillor Wilkins.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkins. You're moving it. And Councillor Turnbull, you're happy to second it? You're going to speak now?
No further words to say, except we did thoroughly assess all of these that are listed in this report, and happy to support our decision. Thank you.
And Councillor Turnbull, you don't wish to say anything else? All right. Then is there anyone who wishes to speak on this motion? If not, and you haven't anything else to say, I'll go back to Councillor Wilkins. Do you have anything to add?
Just one thing. The application for assistance for the church on Alexandra Avenue, sometimes we gave extra assistance with donations in kind. It was chairs. The comment that came back to me was they couldn't accept the chairs because they were older people and the chairs were too heavy, too big, too bulky. That was the reason why, and I haven't betrayed that to the staff yet. But they thanked them for the offer, but they wanted a lighter chair. Thank you. I move the motion. Seek your support.
I shall put the motion. All those in favour of the Community Grants Report? Those against? The motion is carried. And thank you for all of the staff work that went into doing that and compiling all the information for us, and all the follow-ups that are yet to come. Next one is the correspondence, no it's not, Eastern Health Authority Charter, Councillor Jones. Is page 2, 66.
Okay, well, I'd like to put forward the following motion, that Council 1 does not endorse the revised Eastern Health Authority Charter as provided in Attachment A, etc., etc. Delete 2. Look, our choice before us, colleagues, is we either vote for this or we vote against it. There's no, you can vote for 90% of it and reject 10% of it, because all changes to our subsidiary charter need to be unanimously approved by all member councils. And what I particularly object to is the imposition of an independent chairman, which seems a total waste of money. We already have a perfectly good chairman. I'm using the Greek rather than the Latin. Perfectly good chairman in the form of Councillor Cornish. If we had a chairman who was a councillor in Campbelltown or from Norwood, I'm sure they would be equally good. I would have no problems with that. I just fail to see why we need to spend this money. And I also don't see why we need to reduce the number of board members from 2 per council to 1 per council. That's not saving us any money either, because our councillors do it for nothing, which is very good of them. And Burnside, when this change was put forward to us previously, Burnside said, no, we don't like that, as indeed did Norwood. And they've completely ignored us and put it forward again. To which my response would be, are you paying any attention to us? This has to be agreed unanimously. It's obviously not agreed unanimously. Stop flogging a dead horse and just leave out these contentious changes and leave in the sensible changes, because what you have effectively forced us to do is to throw out the whole of the revised charter. And so I think, given that we've previously expressed a view and we've been ignored, we should send a message saying, stop ignoring us. We don't want this change. We won't be voting for this revised charter until you keep what's already agreed by all member councils. So look, I hope you'll support me. There's another change I'm not wild about, which is operating outside the area of the councils. We've certainly seen big problems in Era Water with that happening, but just for tonight, I hope you'll support me on the board composition. We'll send it back to them for a rethink. Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins, you're seconding, and do you wish to speak now?
Yes, I do. I totally support Councillor Jones. I read this and I thought, why change something that's working really well? We have an excellent chair. We've had other chairs from other councils. We have 2 delegates on this committee. Let's get things done. Why pay somebody else? How do you know that person that you want as an independent chair is actually independent? It's not somebody coming in with a hidden agenda somewhere, and they do have a hidden conflict of interest somewhere. We know the people from each council. We know that those people who serve on that board from each council area. I see no reason to change it, and I would like to see the councils have this particular chairperson and not an independent person, and we keep our 2 members on this committee for each council. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Cornish.
Just have a question if I can. The mover suggested that it was one or the other. I just wanted to clarify whether or not, given the opposition to, I think is it 2.2 of the charter or 2.2, that section regarding the board membership, yeah, clause 2.2, membership of the board and chair, would have another alternative or option been to agree with the exception of clauses 2.2? Would that have been doable? So we actually signal to all the other councils what part that we actually have an issue with?
I think
That's
that's
the
a good,
question.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I'd like to get some governance advice and also give time, while we're doing that, give time for Councillor Jones to consider whether or not he wishes to make an agreeable amendment to what he's written, or is that, if that's possible, I don't know.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, more than happy from a government's perspective to accept certain amendments and hold out other components. That's a totally acceptable approach.
So it needs to now really go back to you, Councillor Jones, to determine whether or not you're willing to accept that as an alternative to what you proposed originally, which singles out or identifies specifically the ones that the item that we don't agree with. Do you want Councillor Cornish to repeat it?
No, I know he's saying that we should single out clause 2.2 and 2.5 as being objectionable.
Yes.
I just need to check whether there's any of the others.
So that, in other words, it would become that we endorse the revised charter with the exception of clauses, whatever. Yeah.
It's next to 2.2. In the same line.
How are you feeling about that, Councillor Jones?
I'm not wild about 1 point.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Revised Eastern Charter as provided in attachment A to report with the exception of clauses 2.2 and 2.5.
I would tend to put it the other way, to
Okay.
say we don't approve clauses 2.2 and 2.5.
Okay,
but are
the
happy to
emphasis is
endorse-
different. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you reverse that, Helen, please? And just want to say that having been on the board for 8 years myself, any decision and changes that need to be made have to be made by all, have to be agreed upon by all of the 5 councils anyway, so. 1.7 is a concern? That's what I think councillor understands that, yeah, now.
2.2 and 2.5 is what I'm...
They're the ones that... No, there's no concern about 1.7.
I'm mildly worried.
Yeah. The council, the board has to follow the charter, so that's the rules. So they know what they're doing. Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same thing, but in your motion, Councillor Jones, you were talking about going outside of the current councils and like doing injections for like Unley and so forth. So you didn't like that, and I thought that was 1.7, but I may be wrong.
It is, yes.
So you're happy to go, okay. Now, I have a question.
Yeah, well, actually, I need a seconder first. Oh, sorry, you did second. Okay, but I just needed to make sure you approved of the changes that Councillor Jones has made. Okay, good. All right, so now we can go back to Councillor Dawes.
Yes. Now, it's 4.4b, and it's a minor matter. I do understand it, and perhaps Councillor Cornish can help here. It talks about a deputy CEO, right? 4.4b, and it's on page 125, all right? And it says that if the CEO does not make an appointment of an acting CEO, 4.4b, it says a suitable person will be appointed by not the board but EHA. And I try to work out what is EHA and why do they cross out the board? And I just want to ask the question, why? I don't quite know why the board was crossed out and EHA was put in. I don't know what EHA is. Is that administration or what is it? So that's the question. So I don't know who I can refer it to, Chair, but perhaps it should be the board. I don't know.
So Mr Cowley's going to respond to that one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wonder if Mr Heinrich's got an explanation on that one.
Through the Chair, 4.4 Acting Chief Executive Officer. So the new clause reads, where it's foreseen that there will be an absence of the CEO, him or herself, may appoint a suitable person to act as chief. If the CEO does not make or is incapable of making an appointment under the clause, a suitable person will be appointed by EHA. Yeah, that's not 100% clear whether that's the board or the CEO.
It was the board. It was the board. So
it was the board. So in the absence of that, it's probably the CEO, him or herself. I can only say, imagine they've done that for operational efficiency reasons. I don't believe the CEO covered it in much detail on the night of the 30th. So it would be the CEO who's making that decision.
If he's capable.
If he's capable.
I don't know whether this can be appearing in the motion as a clarification or something. I don't know.
Madam Mayor, I just want to confer with Magnus privately for a minute.
The only time would be if it goes on leave, then one of the other staff takes over and steps up. That's what they has done, but it's usually with the approval of the board. But in this case, if he was incapable, so that if he was in an accident and was unconscious or something, and therefore incapable of making a decision, somebody has to make a decision as to who would take over. Yeah, and that's what is not clear. Is it the board that they make that decision, or is it the staff of the East?
Well, it's not the staff, it's EHA.
Yeah, that's right.
Which would be the board. Or is it the company general meeting?
What do you think, Peter?
I reckon it means the board.
I think it does too.
Decision of the board.
Yeah, the board would have, because someone would have to not be nominated from within the organisation, and then the board would have to approve it if the CEO is not able to approve it. Anyway, we now have an official.
Through Madam Mayor, I think the consensus is that it should be the board.
Yes.
In the glossary, the board has a specific definition and EHA has a definition. The Board of Management of EHA is the definition of a board, and EHA just stands for Eastern Health Authority.
Yeah.
So I suspect that wording should say board.
So we need to
because
include that in here.
to have EHA there doesn't clarify which legal entity is making the appointment.
Right. So could we add that to Councillor Jones' motion?
Which, add what?
That
It would have to be-
4.4b should read the board rather than EHA.
Yes. Yes, you may.
We've got a two-back.
Should read.
The board rather than EHA. Now, can I just speak now. I just wanted to, you know...
Good question to raise.
Yes. Oh, well, it means I actually read this, would you believe? It was very, very long to understand it all, but I think that what Councillor Cornish suggested is the way to go, that there are a number of things I like. I think it's an updating of the charter. I can't remember when the last time it was done, but it was some time ago. And I do recall we had a workshop on this matter. And yeah, I know that Councillor Cornish is keen to continue for 3 more years, which is great, but also he's a very good chairperson as well. So I just feel like we can keep going, and it's every 2 years, I think, Councillor Cornish, or 4 years that we look at the charter. 4 years. So the next council can do that. Yeah, I think that it's good to have 2 council members on the board. I know in the area of water we have 1 and others only have 1. But I find Eastern Health Authority is a bit of a different organisation. It's more about community and so forth, so I'm happy to have 2. But what I would like to have is a deputy member if one of the 2 can't attend. I think that's probably where I would go, because I'm always keen to have the maximum representation. But I don't know if we do that now or in 3 or 4 years' time. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish, do you have another question?
I would like to, not a question, I will speak to it, but I'll also put a clarification to our new number 2 up there, because I think 2.1 on page 83 of the clause actually gives us a decision of the board is a decision of EHA. So EHA and the board are interchangeable in this document. So that EHA is actually the decision point versus the board and membership. So a lawyer has definitely gone through this and clearly changed, because you notice the board's been removed on a number of occasions and replaced with EHA. So I don't know, might want to consider changing that back or removing that bit. But look, in terms of, I still don't know where I actually sit with this, Councillor Jones, because although I thank everyone's kind words about my abilities, I actually don't know whether or not governance-wise it is a smart move to have someone independent manage it, certainly like all of our other regional subsidiaries. I do understand the desire for that, but the cost is certainly something that does, you know, it would, insignificant really, I suppose, you know, if you split it over the 5 councils, but it's still a cost that's not really required for us to incur. I'll see where the winds blow, but I don't know exactly which way I'll go, because I actually see the rationale for it, but I also see that there is no rationale for the cost of it. I want to look at the actual governance of the organisation rather than the people that are sitting there at the moment. And I thank once again everyone for their kind words about me. But I might not be there in 4 years' time, and you might get a tyrant, and you might go, "Oh, wish we had an independent." Just saying. Well, some councils probably thought I was a tyrant. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, and I'll see what other people say before I vote one way or the other. But I do think that probably item 2 might not be as necessary as first required.
Can I just say that I don't, having worked with you on that board for 8 years and seen the previous chair operate, there's never any tyranny, ever. I think they were both, the previous persons, Sue Whitington from Lord Paynham St Peters had been chair of the board for 12 years, I think, and had had a really longevity, understanding and knowing the role. I was deputy chair for 4 years. Peter took over as chair when at 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, and has been doing a great job since. But in that position, you are held accountable by the members of that board. You don't get away with things without it becoming a decision by the full board. And that's where they've had some difficulties with certain people in the past who have made decision-making quite difficult, even in my time. But in the end, it is a decision that is made by the board as a majority decision, and that's the way it has to travel. And so I will now seek anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter. All right, then, Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. All I want to say is, yes, we do have to be mindful of finding savings for everyone in the city at this very difficult time, and across the other councils as well. So perhaps now is not the time to look for that value add through an independent board member, and we'll proceed carefully and when the need, when there's an urgent need, well, urgent, but a driving need, that's when the time would be appropriate to have an independent chair. So thank you, Councillor Jones.
If there's...
Madam
we
Mayor,
haven't resolved the point 2 yet, have we?
I just want to be clear, just for Councillor Jones's sake. I've asked the administration to put the wording back to it was originally, and there is a reason for that. If we had left it that we didn't endorse clauses 2.2 and 2.5, it would only be implied that we had endorsed the rest of the document. It could be read that we're only endorsing, not endorsing those 2 points, and the rest just floats off in the ether. I know you would have liked it first, but this way it is very clear that we are endorsing the balance of the document. Madam Mayor.
I think before we move on to, we do need to resolve the point about number 2. To remove it completely would be my suggestion, but that is up to the mover and seconder. Considering the point that Councillor Cornish made about the definition of EHA.
Madam Mayor.
I'm just seeking some direction here.
My advice is that with the word board, it removes any confusion that may exist.
Okay. Then everybody's happy with as it stands. Now, if there's no one else to speak, then it's Councillor Wilkins to second. I've already spoken, I think. Yes. Oh, sorry, you did. Okay. So now I'll go back to Councillor Jones.
Okay. Just briefly, colleagues. Now, I'm sure that Councillor Cornish is a splendid chairman, but I don't want people at home to think that I'm putting this motion just to protect Councillor Cornish. Splendid chairman though he is. The principle is it's pointless expenditure that, as far as I can see, adds no value. And even if the chairman was from Walkerville, I would not be accepting this change to the charter. And as I said, I think it's pretty rude where charters have to be unanimously agreed between councils to put forward a change knowing that 2 councils have said we don't like it. So I hope you'll vote against this and we'll see this slightly improved charter back shortly.
Those who are in favour of the motion as presented in front of you, please raise your hands. Those against? Right, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. And now we will move to 11.6, Council correspondence from City of Unley. That's Councillor Hallett. Yeah, page 224.
I've got a question. I'm supporting the motion, but I have a question that I'd like to ask. The question is, I couldn't really work out what's being proposed. I mean, I know they're talking about having a design, but what's the problem that they're trying to fix?
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, certainly. The broad concept was to look at Glasson Road as the entryway to the City of Adelaide, or in fact the two cities as well, but the broader City of Adelaide. It was looking at undergrounding the power lines progressively, kind of from the upper end and as you went towards the City of Adelaide, but also as part of undergrounding the power lines, looking at what aesthetic treatments could be applied to actually reinvigorate the entryway to make it an entry statement for the beautification of, I guess, both sides of the road as it pertains to Burnside and Unley, but also, and in some ways, to encourage the state to help fund it, to look at improving the entrance into the City of Adelaide.
It's not something that we could do either as a sole council or even as a joint council. It was proposed as the papers tell you, it was proposed by Unley Council that they approach us to see if we would be willing to talk about it and look at it together, because one side of the road is Unley Council, the other side of the road, or the western side is, basically western side is Unley Council, the eastern side is Burnside, and so it's a job that we would need to do together, but it was really looking at vision and what can we do. And one of the first things that came up in our discussion, the two CEOs and the mayors, was the issue of undergrounding the power lines, as we've done up in McGill, which has vastly improved the appearance of that part of the road. But it was, as you've heard our CEO mention, it's just about other ways that we might look at trying to make the entry into Adelaide, starting at the bottom end and then working our way up, making it much more attractive than it is right now. So it's their approach to us, and then that's why we're here to gauge your interest. Yeah.
Maybe if I can add just a slightly more context. Seeing as I'm recommending, well, that, but I'm also recommending that it's part of the 24-25 budget, which is a year hence. I've actually had a conversation with the CEO from the City of Unley, and he's intimated to me, he actually led the conversation and said, look, just be aware, because I did say we're in a tight budget. Yep. He said if you weren't able to achieve funding for 23-24, he said they would likely match our approach and defer the project to 24-25.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to second the motion, but I would like a variation if the mover might take the variation. I'd like a number 3 that council, I'm trying to suggests contacting, hang on, maybe before I start typing, Helen, I'll talk it to the CEO first. Given you've brought up the City of Adelaide multiple times and the entry to the City of Adelaide, how about we join the City of Adelaide to this project as well, if it's going to be the entry point to their city and the focal point of the entry to their city. So I would like both the cities of Unley and the cities of Burnside to approach the City of Adelaide to see whether or not they would like to participate in this joint project.
Is it, and tell me if this is a silly idea, is it worth extending that thought to asking the state whether they'd like to be part of it?
Ask who?
The state.
The state government.
No, they do. Down the very middle of it.
I'm happy to say to approach as the City of Adelaide and the Government of South Australia to contribute to this, to contribute and participate, or participate, because some of them might. Yeah, and/or. Sorry, thank you. That's my variation. I don't know if the mover would take that.
No, I'm happy. I agree with that. One question, another question.
You have to write it down and remember it, because I've got 6 people before you. Henschke, you were...
Question to the administration. This beautification of the locale we're discussing here, will there be medium density development along that corridor as well, planned?
Through Madam Mayor, I don't believe this concept is talking about reviewing the planning aspects of what's built. This is looking probably right as it gets to the property lines either side.
Footpaths, verges.
Yeah.
Trees.
But to answer your question, the city master plan will be reviewing certainly our side of the road in terms of appropriate development, but it wouldn't be envisaged to be covered by this project.
Right, and I'd just like to speak to the motion now. I disagree with this request for funding. It's just a bit out of the blue, a bit of a surprise, and we really need to be strategic and plan such verge improvements and beautification along Department of Infrastructure roads in a way that's more holistic across the whole city. We have many arterials surrounding various suburbs and business precincts, and I really do think we need to look at where the priorities are in the whole of the city and not just react to a one-on-one request, you know. Why wouldn't another verge out the front here, you know, be, I suppose we're not bound against, we're not a neighbour with another council, but some other council, we've done that along McGill Road, for example. So it's just, I really do think we have the city master plan, and that's where we can plan carefully and prioritise in our action plan particular projects. And as Councillor Hallett says, I agree with her. I don't have enough information here on the problem definition and the project brief to commence the development of such a project. There's quite a lot of development funds we're committing here, and where will that stop? Will it be another $50,000 when we reach another phase of the concept design or detailed design? I don't know. I really need to know what the total investment cost is for this whole beautification project. Is it a $5 million beautification project overall, or a $1 million one? So far we only know that we have been asked for $50,000, so I won't be supporting this tonight.
Through Madam Mayor, I just want to provide a couple of clarification points, if I may. What's being asked for this evening is to include it in the budget bid process for next year. It's certainly not committing council to put it in its budget. It's simply saying let's put it in the bid process for 12 months hence. And to be clear, the $50,000 joined with Unley's proposed allocation is to work up all those very details that you've just mentioned, Councillor Henschke, to provide all the parameters, budget, etc. Because to start this project, it does need seed funding, and that's what this is designed to do. But as I said, it's to put it in the budget bid process, not lock it in as a committed expenditure.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Could I please move an amendment for number 2? Instead of approves the allocation, considers the allocation via workshops. We know nothing about it. You two obviously know heaps about it. We have got no idea. And we're being asked to put $50,000 towards it, not this year, but next year. Look, we've got enough stuff to do in our own ward. We had all our budget bids knocked back, deferred, etc., etc. Here we are, and Councillor Jones would laugh at me to say the $50,000 is going to go off the budget again. Every meeting we have something extra to go onto it, and here's one. So for the beautification of that, it's basically a state road. I don't mind if we go with the City of Adelaide, City of Unley, joining with them, but we need some workshops on this. We shouldn't be allocating $50,000 just for anything like that until we know more about it. We probably learnt a bit then, but we need to sit down and do it properly. So I'd like to move an amendment that approves, goes out and considers the allocation via workshops. Thank you.
Unless Chair agrees.
You can't make a decision in a workshop, so you can't make.
No, we need to have information first before we make a decision.
Can I just say that we have no more information than we've provided you tonight. It was an approach that came from Unley Council, verbally about 6 months ago, more formally 3 months ago. We've had one meeting with 2 CEOs and 2 mayors to discuss the possibilities. They drew some comparisons with what we had done up at McGill on McGill Road with the undergrounding of the power lines. That's where that idea came from. Talking about trying to tidy up that commercial area that is pretty grotty on both sides of the road. We have and their suggestion was that we allocated this amount of money to look at a progress plan, to employ someone to look at how we might do it. So it is visionary, but we have no more information about it. We're not even in a position to be able to workshop it because we haven't got that kind of information yet. I take your point, however, about your concerns. Go ahead.
If I may, Madam Mayor, just to perhaps try and alleviate some of Councillor Turnbull's concerns. If it goes into the budget bid process, that's the point where we have to put some further explanation notes to give you a very clear picture, much more clearer than it is right now. To my understanding, the way this is worded, this is not council approving the expenditure at all. This is council saying we're happy to receive this as a budget bid, and as part of that, I would have to provide you with a lot more information for you to make an informed decision about whether it even gets into the draft budget of 24-25. That's my understanding.
Councillor Jones.
Sorry, what are we doing with Councillor Turnbull's? Is that live? It's still going? Amendment?
Well, it's more considered not an amendment, is it? But the word has been changed.
If I can assist, Madam Mayor.
Yes, I'd love you to.
The amendment considers it's fine.
Considers it's fine. Yeah.
No, I can live with that.
We'll stick with considers.
We're happy with considers.
It's just that the balance of the proposal was effectively ultra vires because you can't make the decision in a workshop.
Okay, look, I'm pleased that the CEO has clarified that this is only a budget bid. But I still think before we even think about $50,000, we can sit round in a room and discuss what we might be talking about. Because let me tell you, I used to work for SA Power Networks. The cost of undergrounding power lines on Glen Osmond Road would be eye-watering. I seem to recall it was costing it something like $20,000 a metre to underground power lines. And Glen Osmond Road's a long road. It must be 3.3 from the toll gate to the city. Right. Well, that would be a lot of money. It's owned by the state government, so that seems to me to cause another complication. And look, I've got to be honest. The idea that Glen Osmond Road is somehow a great boulevard entry to the metro area of Adelaide from the freeway is fanciful, to be honest. So, look, I'd be happy to chat, have a workshop, maybe have a joint workshop with Unley, which would cost us nothing, to discuss what we think we might get out of it. But certainly if you're talking undergrounding, it's costing millions of dollars. I have to say I've got a lot of projects further up the list than Glen Osmond Road. Hey, we've just passed a motion on Glenunga Oval, which we know is even 50% of it's $1.75 million. We had a presentation on the Regal Theatre Master Plan. That's $5 million, if not more. I understand Glenunga Football Club don't like the hub. They want a super hub. God knows how much that's going to cost. So, look, before I even got to thinking about spending $50,000 on a consultant, I'd think let's get in a room and chat about this and get some sense of reality. So I can't vote for the motion as it is, but I'd happily support the concept of having a chat.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Mayor. A question first before I speak. Just remind me, what was our council's share in dollars, approximately, of the McGill Road upgrade? Because there was some money from us and money from federal and state and Campbelltown, but what was our share approximately?
Mr. Kent, was it approximately 7.5, or was it more than that?
Through your worship, I'll take it on notice specifically so I can give you the exact figures. However, I believe the project was approximately 13 million and about 7.5 was funded by the feds, and we were then liable for 50% of the remainder. But I will find that. 2.8, there you go, 2.88.
2.8 million.
Was our share. Now that didn't include PLEC funding, so the undergrounding was on top of that. And with that specific project, PLEC funded 2/3 of that, which was 3.4 million of the 5.1, and the remaining third was split 50-50 between the two councils, so 850,000 each.
Oh, so we're talking millions, aren't we, here? Yep, okay. So if I can now speak, Mayor, yeah, because that was a thoroughfare. It's not a major thoroughfare. It is wider than most main streets, but this is a state government responsibility, in my opinion. There are narrow verges all the way down, so we can't expand it in any way. And the priority for me, unfortunately, is not Glen Osmond Road. I have to say that to you. I just can't believe we could do anything except spending a lot of money. And it has to be state government. I just can't see the community of Burnside saying to us that we should be spending money on beautifying Glen Osmond Road as an entrance to the city. It really is a state government responsibility. So that's where I sit personally.
Fine, thank you. Councillor Wilkin.
Thank you, Your Worship. The ward Eastwood Glenunga actually borders Glen Osmond Road, and I go back to the time when the opening of the tunnels and the freeway was a ball and a dinner in the tunnels themselves. I went with Di Laidlaw that night, and her vision was, and is now still there, it is the Nuns Vale Fountain at the Carmelite corner of Cross Road and Glen Osmond Road, and the fossil trees that hide on the other side, hide the OTR service station. So thank you, Di. I look at them and think of you every time I go down that road. It is a state government road. They have to step up and continue what they stopped at that point. And I think the Unley side of the road with the Carmelite brick fence and the indents and the trees, they have started that design. I don't agree with 50,000, I'd say 25. Put their money up and we'll think about it. I do think we need to have a combined workshop with them and sort it all out, suggest the design. It's a vision. I get the joint vision because we had it way back when I first started in Council 203 to about mid-2000s. Go Road was the organisation for the suburb of Eastwood, and we worked with Parkside. And Parkside and Eastwood beautified both sides. They've fallen down because the owners of the building don't keep up the facial, shall I say, perfection that we would desire. And the pot plants, well, they haven't been kept up, they haven't been replanted. It looks a bit tatty, quite frankly, on both sides. The actual signage for each shop needs to be actually continuous. It needs to be all the same design. There's a whole design that you could do. Great vision, but we need to do it together with Unley. We started, but it's fallen on the wayside at the bottom end of the road, shall we say, the eastward end of the road, and the Parkside end, but I'd never stop somebody saying, look, let's get together and have a talk and a plan and a vision and get all parties, City of Adelaide, State Government and our 2 councils on side. Yes, let's look at it. But in the future, we've got other things more important to do. That's all I want to say.
Councillor Hallett.
I think it is a worthwhile project in that
Just ask the kids if they're all right.
It's all right. Can you, I've got you written down, okay? So Cornish and then...
No, don't touch it. Ted, you switch yours off and then switch it back on. You've got it, don't touch it. You're red.
You can ask a question.
No, I haven't. It's basically to do with what Councillor Wilkins was talking about with the artwork, the existing artwork, and also that they're talking about, Unley is talking about a TOD. My understanding of a TOD development is transport orientated development, which is about accommodation as well. It includes housing development.
So your question is?
So my question is, which we started right off with, is what's it actually about? You know, like we don't know enough about what even the rough concept is. I mean, it does say that they're prioritising section 1 between Cross Road and Portrush Road and Fullerton Road, but I just think it just seems so loose about what's being proposed. Is it a beautification? And does that just mean, you know, some landscaping under power lines, or is it a TOD? Is it a TOD development, or what's involved in a TOD development? That's the question.
You answer that.
Transport orientated development.
So through
And
Madam,
what will happen with the existing artwork?
so through Madam Mayor, at no stage have we talked about a TOD at all. It's not to say it's not
in the letter.
I'm just sharing what I spoke to the CEO about.
We have not talked about it.
I think it's fair to say the whole concept is extremely high level at this point in time, and so I will struggle to provide you with any lower level detail. Yeah, that's it.
Can you turn your mic on? Thank you. And now Councillor.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Court.
And since I've spoken, these are questions. Is this similar sort of contact that this council would have received from the City of Campbelltown to actually start that 6-year project to actually design it, workshop it together for multiple years and come up with a plan? Was this that embryonic little spark of a letter between one council to another and going, hey, do you want to work together on doing this project? Sets us on our boundary. It might take forever, but we need a bit of investment up front.
I think that's exactly what it is. It's embryonic. Now we want to compare it. Campbelltown will ask Mr. Camp.
Through your worship, I'll rain on your parade for the first answer, but then I will give you the answer you're looking for. The first one was actually commenced by the Uni of South Australia between Campbelltown and Burnside, and that's what started that one. However, the Marriotteville precinct was started by an exact same motion as this, and we approached Norwood with a similar approach.
Thank you. My second question is, how long did it take from the first time the Uni of SA approached both cities before the actual project actually happened, and we needed some serious investment to do it, and planned it out, how many workshops, those sort of things?
Through the worship, you're testing my memory now, but it was certainly before 2010, I believe.
Yes.
A decade. It's not going to happen overnight.
Now, councillor Jennings.
Since we're inviting people to this party, the poles and wires are owned by SA Power Networks, and perhaps they should come involved. Looking at Google Street View down the Princess Highway, I can see on Unley sides they've got old gums, they've got underground power lines. Burnside side, we've got overhead power lines, no trees.
One tree.
One tree. Distasteful signage. Someone running across the road for a bus.
Not pleasant, really.
If we're going to start, let's get this conversation started at least, but $50,000 while our belts are tight at the moment seems like a big ask, a very big ask. Thank you.
Oh, I had someone else there, but they've moved. They've gone. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Otherwise, I shall go back to councillor. Councillor Henschke, you've already spoken. Have you got a question?
A question, yes.
Go on.
Considering that we don't know much about this project definition and scope, could the administration, at a minimum, the staff, spend a few hours developing that up without us having to, without consultants being involved straight away, which is what I presume the $50,000 is for?
To be honest, if this doesn't get up, I'm just going to pull it, and
Yes,
I'll return it at some point in the future.
Yeah.
With,
I mean, this came as a request from, not from us, it came as a request from Unley. They have already passed a motion in support of them communicating with us. We have done as their council instructed or requested. That is, they have met, their CEO and Mayor have met with this CEO and Mayor. We have discussed it. They made a proposal at that meeting to put this amount of money into the budget. We have now brought it to you to consider. Originally it was to go into this year's budget, but I knew that was not going to happen. And they've made it more flexible by asking us to consider putting it into next year. But if you vote this down, then I think it just disappears, and we write back and say our council has considered your proposal, but it did not get the support. That's it. End of conversation. That's the way I read it. Councillor Henschke, you have another question?
Yes, question. So the letter says one outcome of that meeting was the agreement to develop a joint vision for the redevelopment of Glen Osmond Road. Is that an agreement in our city master plan, or was that an agreement at the meeting?
It was not a signed agreement in any way, shape or form, and it was an agreement to bring it to this council for discussion. Councillor Cornish.
Just a few more questions. Is McGill Road a state road?
No. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Thank you. And I've noticed people are saying this year's budget and putting it in next year's budget, but you actually mean not next year's budget, you mean the year after that. So it's actually a couple of years away, this $50,000. Is that correct? Thank you.
That's correct.
Cheers.
Yes, it's a couple of years away.
So even before we
Apologies.
start the conversations, it's years away.
It is years away.
So this is beyond embryonic. This is first date material. Okay.
Absolutely visionary, and if you decide you don't want to go anywhere with this at all, then that it is your call. It might come up again in 3 years' time, or 4 years' time, or in 10 years' time. I don't think Unley's going to let go of the idea. They're very passionate about improving at least their side of the road, but not much point in them doing one side without doing the other, hence them coming to us. Right, so now I will go back to Councillor Hallett to summarise.
In summing up, I think that there are basically 2 points from my point of view, and that is that I do think that it does seem like a worthy project, and I'd ask you to think about Sir Donald Bradman Drive and what that used to look like and how horrible it was from the airport into the city. And it actually has improved a lot by doing it up. And I do think that Glen Osmond Road is an entry statement. That said, I think that I agree that the state government has a key responsibility, and that we should be looking at a partnership with Unley and with the City of Burnside and perhaps the City of Adelaide. And I'm happy, and for that I'm happy to actually recommend the modified recommendations 1, 2 and 3.
Right, then I will put the motion as it stands on the screen. All those in favour? 6, and those against? 4, so the motion is carried, and I think this is very much a visionary, and a division has been called, so all those who voted in favour, please stand. So we have Councillor Zing, Councillor Wilkins, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Hallett, Councillor Harvey, and Councillor Cornish. And those against, Councillor Henschke, Councillor Turnbull, Councillor Dawes, Councillor Jones. Right, thank you. And it was carried, yes, motion was carried. No changes as a result of the division. Right, now the next one is Councillor Turnbull, 11.7, page 228. And you have some questions or concerns?
Thank you. A question about the 4th dot point up from 229.
Wait a minute, I'll just find the page.
229. It's, my question is, where you say, join Rose Park Primary School's Environment Day and help plant trees on June the 4th. Were all schools in the City of Burnside part of this World Environment Day? Did they get the offer of trees and shrubs as well?
No, this was a particular project that the schools community developed themselves. They came to the council and approached the council to get support for trees and plants and shrubs. They also approached Green Adelaide, so they had an equal number of trees and plants. They planted over 400 trees, mostly shrubs on that day. Councillor Cornish and I were part of that planting. We'd been invited, as Councillor Henschke was, but she was unable to attend. We were invited to join. The Deputy Premier, Susan Close, came and planted trees and gave a speech, and so did Jack Batty and James Stevens. They also came and planted shrubs. We all had our allocated places where we had to work and put in the shrubs, so it was very much a school initiative that was run by their Year 6 environmentalist leaders. So that's where it came from, with the full support of parent group and the rest of the whole school community.
So
there are hundreds of people there.
Can other schools in the City of Burnside apply for this too?
I would assume so.
They don't even know about it, so maybe if this was publicised, other schools would try to too?
Look, while I appreciate what you're saying, this was a school-initiated event that dated back. I think I got the invitation originally back in about March this year. So they had this day planned for a very long time. But I would imagine if any school within our Burnside area came up with something similar, then they could apply to us and also to Green Adelaide to get a similar kind of result.
I do remember bringing up about Arbor Day.
I do remember that too.
Which is,
you might want your mic on, Councillor Turnbull.
What's it doing to help the other schools learn about this and how to apply and put this into their school as well? What is Council doing?
Through Madam Mayor, at this point in time, we're not doing anything. Having said that, it was extremely successful. I might have to take that on notice, Madam Mayor, but I'm happy to work with the team to look at ways that we could, at the very least, encourage our other schools to perhaps participate in tree planting. But I just need to understand what resources were involved before I commit to it.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, I would imagine, in the community grants, we also provided some plants. We agreed to provide plants to Linden Park Primary School and Seymour College as part of the community.
Many more schools.
I totally appreciate what you're saying, but this was a school initiated. They approached us and Green Adelaide. It was their vision to try to encourage children to be more interested in the environment and to plant shrubs and trees as part of that, not only the symbol of being involved in improving the environment, but actually taking action. So it was a whole school approach, and I would imagine that we would treat every school in the same way, but that initiative all came from within the Rose Park Primary School itself. I'm certainly working with another school next week with our staff in relation to waste disposal and doing a program with Year 4s where we're looking at teaching the children about waste as well as teaching the children about the role of local government.
So, it seems very ad hoc. A school here and a school there. Should it be rolled out over all the schools?
Look, I appreciate your question. I think that's not something that we have planned. This event happened as a result of...
Madam Mayor, can I just confer with Mr Cant for a minute?
Sure. We have, in fact, 13 schools in Burnside.
Madam Mayor, I just want to try and clarify, because annually, as part of Arbor Day, we do work with all the schools, provide them with trees, and every school participates in a planting program on Arbor Day. Are you suggesting something different, Councillor Turnbull?
You provide 2 trees per school if they ask for it, because we've been to the plantings. Not 400, like you're talking about for this one. It just seems to me a little bit exclusive somehow.
I think,
equitable.
Madam Mayor, I might just get some clarification from Mr Cant, if I may.
There's a significant programme we do each year with education purposes, and we provide the tree giveaway programme each year as well. And we do encourage schools to take more trees than we do average residents to plant within there. Every school is offered to take that up. I'm not entirely sure the exact number of that, but we've also invited council members to come along and be part of that planting programme as well, which I understand you were part of as well. But they're also encouraged to plant more of their own trees at that same time as well, which I believe they take up. With respect to this particular motion, this matter, as the Mayor said, this is not a council-initiated programme. This was initiated by, I believe, the department, and that was, the invitation came the other way as opposed to us doing that. But if that's something you wish us to consider in the future, that's certainly something we can consider.
Right, do you have any other questions in relation to this report? No. Councillor Hallett, you wish to speak? Right, if no one has any other questions, I need a seconder. Councillor Dawes?
I'll second.
You'll second it? All right. Those in favour of receiving the report? Those against? Carried. All right. Looking at the time to go back. Can we have clarification? We normally hear the answer is no. There's no questions asked. If you've got a follow-up question, you need to just send it to the CEO, right? Or the relevant staff member. Okay. Councillor Dawes is leaving the chamber while we consider his leave of absence application. And sorry? I don't think he needs to, but he did declare an interest at the beginning, but I don't... Would you like to go and get him back, please?
I'm happy to move his motion for
So
him.
am I.
But I thought we had our rule that we're not actually allowed to move other people's motions on notice. There is a rule. We can't, so no one can move it, so he needs to come back.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Made an exit, now you make an entry.
Thank you, councillor Cornish.
You just seek leave of the meeting.
I'd like to hear about this holiday.
He's going overseas.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it.
We'll hear about it afterwards. He'll bring
I think we need to ask about it to see whether we should put him up.
Fact-finding mission.
very expensive fact-finding mission. We expect a report with photographs.
Souvenirs. Plundered treasures.
Madam Mayor, I probably should start with a bit of an apology. We should have picked this up sooner. It probably shouldn't have been a motion on notice.
No, that's what I was wondering.
The ordinary approach is that Councillor Dawes would write to you,
Yeah.
and I would put it in my CEO report, where Council just resolves to provide Councillor Dawes with a leave of
That
absence.
would be here, come up in here normally,
Yes.
an application.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally would come up in that application form.
Yeah,
Yeah, anyway.
so I do apologise for not picking it up and assisting with Councillor Dawes with that one, but that's how we would normally handle it.
But since it is there, councillor Wilkins, you willing to move a motion that we accept? No, she's not allowed to. Councillor, it can't actually be done this way. Councillor Dawes has to move it himself.
I move.
That my leave of absence is accepted for July of this year, all right?
I'm happy to second
And seconded
your
by
motion.
councillor Cornish. Is there any discussion on the matter, or are we happy to just me to go straight to the vote? All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? Carried. All right. Now, 13.2 has been withdrawn. 13.3, Christmas lights, that's councillor Zing.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to see a report if City of Burnside can establish a lights incentive program for residents, and that council investigates the benefits of setting up a grant scheme for future years so that the lights program becomes an annual event. If you undertake even a simple online search using a term like Christmas Lights Adelaide, it will reveal in an instant how popular and enduring the tradition of local Christmas lights displays are in suburban Adelaide and across South Australia. As the festive season approaches, we often see where Adelaide families can enjoy the best local lights, showcasing the streets and houses that have the most innovative displays. Some individual householders even have their own websites to promote their lights. It is a great way for families to put the phone and laptop down, come together and set up the house. The high level of media engagement shows that encouraging local light displays brings the community together and enhances householders' pride in their neighbourhoods. At the same time, being known as a location of bright and colourful lights is a great way of bringing visitors to the area. The lights of Lobeful in the Adelaide Hills, for instance, have been a great source of local pride for more than 60 years, attracting families from all over and achieving international reputation in the process. Burnside residents have always shown themselves to be enthusiastic decorators, but incentivising them to get involved through offering a prize and community recognition for the best street, block of flats or shop display will help to promote and foster a sense of community cohesion, encouraging neighbours and friends to come together to bring the festive spirit to their part of Burnside. Thank you.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Jennings, you're wishing to second. Are you going to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll speak now. Christmas lights are a fabulous way, festive lights are a fabulous way to bring communities together. We have to be very careful about using the term Christmas, as we live in a multi-faith society where there is, vote against the motion.
Leave councillor Jennings to speak.
We just need to be very careful about the language, but it is a great way to bring people across the road who may only know each other just by seeing a smile in the morning on their way to work or on the way to school, and maybe a bit of friendly competition between streets and suburbs. I know that Alinga Avenue has a bit of a quiet competition going, as does Sturdy Street over Portrush Road. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Henschke?
Question for the administration. Well, actually for the mover, I suppose, if they don't know the answer. Is this intended for businesses and similar to the City of Adelaide system? There is an incentive, similar incentives program in the City of Adelaide for businesses to get grants for this festive time.
Through you, Madam Mayor,
Trees were fabulous.
I probably need a bit more clarification as well. I just need to understand what incentive means, and also
No money, sorry.
when you say, oh no, just to, if this gets up, I'll need to understand what incentive means and what you mean by activating a dedicated street and what financial contribution you're envisaging for the City of Burnside. And with the grant scheme, what would you be envisaging that it covers? Are you talking about purchasing lights? I need more information for this, should this get up.
Councillor Wilkins?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very happy to see Christmas lights up. In fact, there's just down here in Dulwich, there's the flats on the corner around Green Hill Road have the trunk of the tree lit up. Great. North Adelaide, outside the Blue Cafe, that's been there for years, they've got light bulbs hanging in the trees in O'Connell Street, North Adelaide. And I can't remember where I was last night, but the trees were fantastic and they were lit up with fairy lights. There are fairy lights everywhere throughout and the year, not just at Christmas. But if you want to go and see a great example of Christmas lights, 9th Avenue, St Peter's. Friends and I walked down 9th Avenue last year and I was blown away with the Christmas lights. It was wall to wall crawling traffic. Pavements were chocked with children, families, people, old and young, enjoying the spectacle because 9th Avenue, St Peter's at the eastern end was, every house was lit up like a Christmas tree. Fantastic, fantastic. So it can be done, but I don't think we need to provide incentives monetary-wise. I think we need to perhaps offer assistance or whatever. But yes, it is a vision and it is great at Christmas time. We live in a Christian country.
Councillor Jones?
Colleagues, there's only one possible response to this motion, which is bah humbug. We shouldn't be spending a single cent of ratepayers' money on this scheme. Now, I love Christmas lights. I could even learn to love festive lights. But as long as they're not paid for by ratepayers. Just no. I was out door knocking on the weekend. Met a lady, she said, rates cannot go up, I cannot afford them. And here we are, I mean, we've managed to contain our rates compared to some of the spendthrift councils around South Australia, but we should not be spending money on this, this is, look, people will just go bunter, you know, if we pass this motion, and they'll say, people should spend their own money on Christmas lights. Ratepayers shouldn't be spending money on Christmas lights. By all means, publicise it. The Mayor does her thing on Facebook. Look, personally, I have to say I wouldn't want hordes of people driving slowly down my street, and you know, if Councillor Zing wants in his street, go for it, but as long as we don't have it in Beaumont, is all I'm saying. And that we don't spend any ratepayers' money. So, no from me.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'm a bit worried. I'm starting to sound like Councillor Jones. So I'm Councillor Grinch. I'm just saying, on the scale of things, how important are Christmas lights to the services that council provides. Not at all. All very nice, lots of people have them, but is it really a council issue to spend time on a report, fund these lights with grants and subsidies and incentives when we're deferring and shelving other important things in Councillor Burnside? So I'll say a big no as well.
Councillor Hallett.
I do support this because I think it is a really good community development project, and I think it already happens. I know that in Brigalow, in our ward, they have a lights and they actually have a bit of a party. They don't close the street or anything, but they go from home to home. And I was trying to think, I think it's on the Stattenborough that they do all the trees up with bows, and that's really. It's not lights, it's actually big bows, and there's a number of streets like that around Christmas time that they actually decorate the streets with these big bows around the trees. And so it doesn't have to be lights, but it's just involving people in a community spirit. And I don't think it has to include a budget necessarily. I think it could come out of operating expenses for something so that we could do a map. Perhaps a kit for residents on if you want to do it, what sort of laws you might need to take notice of, and then also the publicity for it. But, so yeah, I think it's a good community project.
Councillor Dawes.
Yeah, I did like what Councillor Hallett said. No budget. But fiscal responsibility again comes to mind, and you might remember in a recent workshop, the CEO said to us that council hasn't got a great record in keeping to our budget, and here we go again. So I have made contact with Councillor Zing before the meeting to say, look, December 2023, I don't like that, but he's kept it there. And he's also kept in number 2 as well. But, we can do something, as the Mayor has done on her Facebook page and, done it the last 2 or 3 years, I think. 4 years. And there's one in our ward which is absolutely spectacular. Absolutely. But I just can't agree to spending any money. So I'm kind of half with you, Councillor Hallett, there. But I just cannot agree with the motion as it currently stands.
Councillor Corn.
First question to the administration in regards to, obviously this is only seeking a report to come back to this council with what a program might look like. So it's not actually us committing funds at this time. That would be after a report comes through and recommendations from that. Are there any staff currently that need some training and development in writing reports for council, or how busy are your council report writing staff? Just asking.
Through Madam Mayor, to be fair, my team are
under the pump.
No, they are actively delivering services. In fairness, if this does get up, I'd have to couch a report in terms of perhaps a spectrum of financial impact, from $0, what we could do, through to some options if it got up. But have I got staff sitting around waiting to write this report? No, I don't.
My second question then is, because Councillor Dawes did bring it up, being December 2023, I'd imagine bringing a report back and then actually implementing a program for this year, that's a really, I think that's a very tight turnaround. Like, you can't even book a Christmas venue right now because they're already booked out for parties and stuff. So I just, developing a program in such a short period, it would be quite difficult, I'd imagine.
Through Madam Mayor, and again, I'll context these words by saying that, we don't quite know what this looks like. If we were to achieve anything for December 23, it would have to be at the end of zero budget, perhaps, as Councillor Hallett was alluding to. Perhaps we work with the residents and produce a map. But to look at anything more encompassing, like a grants program, or purchasing or assisting with a purchase, we could, well, not could, would be very pushed to deliver by December 23.
Thank you.
Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Look, I just want to say thank you to Councillor Hallett for her words, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel with this stuff, because other councils around the country do it. They have what the CEO just mentioned, which is the interactive map, and each year they invite residents, who nominate for your house to be in lights, and here are the guidelines. Off by 10 p.m, thank you, etc., etc. And then the mayor does a tour of the city and, goes around to each street, and all of that stuff happens. So, it's really, as Councillor Hallett says, it sort of creates a sense of community and connection and that sort of thing. So, it doesn't need to cost anything. As the CEO said, there could be sort of a zero cost approach through to an incentive thing, but I'm not convinced that we put money into it. We probably, it probably won't cost much. We'll be stretching staff time to do this incentives map thing on the computer, but we like to engage with our residents anyway. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
I'll just take an opportunity just to talk about a couple of things I know about Christmas lights. One is Campbelltown do have an interactive map. They do have a competition each year where people can go around and have a look where the lights are. Last year, one of the radio stations, I can't remember which one it was, had a big competition, and one of the houses in your ward, in Rosalind Avenue, Wattle Park, won the best Christmas lights in the whole of the eastern suburbs of Adelaide. They were in the final four with the east, west, north and south. They didn't win overall metropolitan champion, but they were certainly well applauded. And one of the most delightful things about that particular, apart from the lights that are unbelievable, is that they ask for donations at their house for charity, and all the money that they raise goes to a charity every year. And that is absolutely stupendous. I've been doing the 12 Days of Christmas for the last 4 years as mayor, photographing people's houses, not their addresses, but the houses and naming the street. Because I do appreciate that there are some people who do want privacy. I mentioned the name of the street. For example, there's a brilliant one down in Alexander Avenue, and was one of the residents who on Facebook told me about it. I went and visited it at the end of last year. No, it's at Hewitt Avenue. It's right down near the bottom end. It's unbelievable as well. Incredible lights. I could give you a list, and I could give your friends a list of all the places that streets I have mentioned in the last few years. And those could be added to an interactive map, but that's only if people like it. There's another brilliant one, which is very Christian in its theme, the bottom of Devereux Road. Absolutely magnificent. But I tell you what, I have travelled every street in Burnside, every single street over the last 4 years. On a number of occasions, I've had tip-offs from various residents and from some of the elected members as to where particularly stunning lights are. I've photographed them, I have a collection of them, and I put them up on the 12 days leading up to Christmas, with the best one saved to last to Christmas Eve. And that's something that I can do, but again, I don't put a number of a street, because you don't know if people are really keen on having a lot of people peering in their windows and looking in their doors. The invitation in Rosalind Avenue, unbelievable. The other one, the one down at Hewitt, incredible. And there are many others that are beautifully done, and many other little, and what I've noticed each year is there's more neighbours that are doing it as well, which is the best way for it to happen, when people get the idea and then somebody else copies it. No, I can do better than that, and I can do better than that. And what the person who contacted me about Hewitt said, this family do it bigger and bolder every year. So I just think it's wonderful that the community does it. I have no one else on the screen, so I'm going to go back to the mover, Councillor Zing.
Just a quick question, Mayor. Am I allowed to move an amendment on this, or is that not allowed, to take out the budget implications? Like, will that help if I was to remove those wordings?
Yeah, no.
We've already finished debating.
Yeah, and it was a motion put forward by Councillor Zing. Can't change.
It was your sorry, I'll put the motion then. All those in favour of the motion as it stands? Those against, sorry, those for, I'll do it again. Those of for? Those against? The motion is lost. Thank you for that discussion. Now, I'm going to suggest that we have a 10-minute break now, unless anyone is opposed to that. It's a couple of minutes, 3 minutes to 9, a 10-minute break. We start at 7 minutes past. I don't think we need to. No. Nobody's objected, so we'll have it until 7 minutes past 9. Okay, my intent is to run the final 15.2 first, which then allows me to declare a conflict of interest and leave the chamber and leave you to it for the last item. So, and you will need to then, of course, get a new chair for that final item. So we're going to deal with a related party update 15.2 first, which is page 242. And I seek someone to move that. Oh, we've got to move into confidence first. Thank you, Councillor Cornish, and you've got it there already. You're happy to move into confidence now. And I seek a seconder, and that is Councillor Dawes, seconding to move into confidence. And Councillor Zing, you wishing to move this motion?